Hello Electroheads and welcome to the most exciting e-bike video I've done on this channel for a very long time. We're looking at the HonBike U4, the new bike, the new flagship bike from this new e-bike company. It's a serious contender to things like the Vanmoof S5. Very similar styling, but in a slightly different way. So it's got these beautiful curved lines on the tubing system, which make it feel like one piece, bit of a playful antidote to the straight lines on something like the Vanmoof. But really, it's in that cowboy territory, it's in that Vanmoof territory, but it's over €1,000 cheaper than those bikes.
1,000?
It's got a secret trick that I want to tell you about today. We've had it for a few weeks. I've been riding it since it arrived, become addicted to it. So today I want to share it with you. And the secret trick should help me get from the bottom of this hill right to the top. I'm testing this bike on one of the steepest hills in London to see if it will actually make it up there. So stick around to the end of the video when that happens and you'll see if I fail miserably, like I do at most things in life, or whether I succeed. If you want to use the chapters in this video to navigate to the features, the full spec, the sort of ride feel, then you can do that below. So let's get straight into it.
By and large, there are two types of e-bike companies taking over the world. There are Chinese e-bike companies that manufacture their bikes in China and market them around the world, and there are Western e-bike companies that market their products in the West and build them in China. Many of these companies are making very similar products. Carbon belt drives, stylish frames, cool companion apps, the humble bicycle updated for the modern city slicker. But by and large, the Chinese companies do a terrible job of marketing their products to the West. Their websites can be littered with poor English translations and imagery and video that looks like it was made by a second-year film studies student. As any advertising executive will tell you, humans buy through emotion and not through logic. And companies like Vanmoof have done an exceptional job of triggering our emotions, producing beautiful websites laden with imagery that makes tech bros go weak at the knees and rush to part with £3,000 on a bike that, at the time of recording, has a 3-month waiting list and is not made in Vanmoof's home country of the Netherlands, it's made in Taiwan. Speak to almost anybody currently waiting for their Vanmoof to arrive and they'll tell you it was the fabled boost button that clinched it for them. The button that gives the rider additional assistance from a standing start, as though having an e-bike that already does 90% of the work for you wasn't enough. By the way, this is what happens when you type Vanmoof boost button into Google.
That's not good.
Vanmoof have created an enviable alchemy that has positioned them as one of the world's leading e-bike companies. But for nearly half the price of a Vanmoof S5, you could buy an HonBike U4. The spec is remarkably similar. I've ridden Vanmoof's bikes, I've ridden Cowboys, I've ridden Tenways, Cake, Mate, and just about any other big e-bike brand you can name. And the HonBike is up there with all of them. In fact, it's better than a lot of them.
The reason you've never heard of it is because their marketing isn't very good. And despite the fact that this is in the same category as lots of way more expensive e-bikes, people will choose to buy the more expensive ones because they'll buy based on emotion and not logic. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to cater it to the pragmatic people out there who think, this bike sounds logically great. Tell me more, because this bike deserves to be everywhere in Berlin, New York, Paris, Madrid, London, cities where idiots like me who want to be cool spend £4 on one cup of coffee that doesn't even taste that good. So let's go.
The ethos of the HonBike U4 is incredibly simple. It's built for the core purpose of commuting in cities, and the design of the bike is intended to save weight and to put most of the weight of the bike low and central. The aluminium top tube and down tube have effectively been combined into one long piece. This reduces weight, creating a step through and housing a very long high capacity 36 volt 432 watt hour battery with a range of up to 100 kilometers. The rear 250 watt motor is lightweight, helping to keep the weight of the bike underneath the rider, which makes it a genuinely lovely bike to ride in terms of handling. The carbon belt drive gives a smooth ride, and the high ratio gearing gives instant torque from a standing start. It means the rider only has to pedal lightly to get maximum power out of the motor. And what's more, the HonBike has its own automated version of the Vanmoof boost button, which we'll talk more about later.
The mechanical Tektro brakes are very good. Tektro make a lot of brakes for e-bikes and electric scooters. These one-piece magnesium wheels are super stylish, and the thick tread tyre, 27.5-inch tyre that's on them, does soak up a lot of kind of bumps and potholes on the road, so a nice ride. The weight of the bike is just 20 kilograms. Usually when you pick up an e-bike, you can feel all the weight on the back because of the motor, but this motor is actually quite light. The battery runs almost all the way through this tube here. so the weight distribution is lovely. That's a full 3 kilograms lighter than the Vanmoof S5, by the way. It has an integrated front light and a reflector, which is really nice, and it has a detachable rear light here, which you can take out and charge. It has a companion app, it means you can lock it, turn the bike off. If anyone steals the bike and turns it on, they will never be able to get any electric power out of it. And it is around 1,800 euros. So that's the price you're looking at. Prices do change all the time on e-bikes. So obviously take that with a pinch of salt. If you're watching this video in a year, the price could well have changed. When you're riding an e-bike, it's really important that you're not thinking too much about controlling the e-bike itself. Really, you just want the e-bike to react to what you're doing, and that's what a torque sensor gives you. So the torque sensor on this bike is basically just feeding off of the input that I'm giving it through the pedals and is responding accordingly. That mixed with the smart on-ride system, which is basically the computer system on this bike, it just does a really good job of giving you an intuitive ride. You can almost forget that it's an e-bike and you start to feel like you're actually just an incredibly fit cyclist that's barely putting in any effort. And that's because there's a high ratio gearing system on this bike. High ratio actually means it's easy to pedal. So I don't really have to put much force through the crank to be able to get a lot back from the bike. But really, this is the closest you can get, I would say, to a throttle that actually means you don't have to put in any effort whatsoever. And it's quite a Vanmoof style ride, I have to say. Now, there is one weird thing worth mentioning about this e-bike, which is that when you look down, because of the way that the post comes across rather than straight, you're cycling forward, but it looks like the wheel is pointing sideways. It's a slightly odd thing to get used to, and you shouldn't ride your bike like this anyway, because that would be very stupid. But it took me a couple of rides just to get used to that. Is that a downside? Yes, on the first ride it definitely is, but you really do get used to it. I was worried it would affect the handling or something, but it definitely doesn't. As you can probably tell, I love this bike, but don't just take it from me. My incredibly excitable colleague, Eilis, sent me a voice note the other day when she'd ridden this bike home. I just want to play that for you right now, whilst I cycle along happily, safe in the knowledge that Eilis is now taking over the presenting. So here we go.
Oh my God, Rich, I literally just had to stop 5 minutes into my commute to gush about this HonBike. It is so good, it's so comfortable. You've got like this upright seated position and like the saddle is so comfortable and the assist is really nice and smooth, and these tires, they just like cushion any impact with the road. Like, it doesn't have any suspension, does it? It's so mad comfortable. I'm so impressed. Obviously just don't look down because of the weird diagonal bar, which you need to kind of get your head around. It's so comfy. I'm a big fan.
Thank you, Eilis, for that incredibly excitable voice note. Let's move on. So look, if you're finding this review useful, please do like this video, drop a comment and subscribe to the channel. We basically do this to try and get more people riding e-bikes. That's our mission. So if that's what you want in the world, then feel free to go ahead and support us. Also, if you're interested in buying this bike or finding out more information, then there are some links down in the description, depending on whether you're in the US, the EU or the UK. So just go down there, navigate, find out more information about the HonBike U4. So back to the subject of e-bike marketing and successful e-bike marketing. Many e-bike companies have successfully managed to convince the public that torque sensors are just better than cadence sensors. Now, torque sensors are great and they are often what you will find on the more expensive bikes. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, what the hell is a cadence sensor or what the hell is a torque sensor, then please do keep listening. Even if you already know what those things are, then keep listening, because there's a special trick to this bike involving the sensor that I'm going to tell you all about at the end of this section. So a torque sensor can be better because, as I was talking about during the ride section, it gives you really intuitive feedback. It basically works on the amount of power that you yourself as a rider are putting into the bike. So more power, you get more out of the bike itself. Less power, you get less out of the bike itself. So it's like an extension of you as a rider. A cadence sensor works on how fast the pedals are rotating. So that means on a bike that has a chain drive where you can have multiple mechanical gears, you can slip into a low gear, pedal fast, and the bike will go pretty quickly, which I actually really like, and I think that's the reason a cadence sensor is a good thing. The problem that creates for torque sensors, their major weakness is hills. because if you've just got one gear, when you get to a steep hill, you have to pedal really hard to get the most out of a torque sensor. And you've only got one gearing, so you can't make it easier or harder for yourself. You've just got the one option. This has a gyroscope, which means that when you're going up a steep gradient, the bike responds to that and pushes you up the hill faster. It basically gives you more power. It's like the Vanmoof boost button, but it's an automated version. We're going to test that in one of the steepest hills in London later in this video. So keep watching, okay? Keep watching.
Okay.
A really great feature on this bike is the throttle, which is actually not for riding, it's for walking. So it will give you a walk assist up to 6 kilometers an hour. That is the height of laziness, but still, it's a pretty cool feature. So the thing I've alluded to a couple of times in this video, the magic trick this bike has is kind of like the Vanmoof boost button, but it's an automated version of that using a gyroscope. So when it detects that you're on a gradient, it gives you a lot more assistance, and apparently makes it super easy to ride up hills. I've ridden up some small gradients on this bike in the last few weeks, but I don't really have any big hills on my commute. So we've come out to the Royal Borough of Greenwich, where there's a massive hill, basically. Let's go. Cole, do you just want to give a sense of the hill that we're going up now? Hills never look as steep on camera as they do in real life, but I've done this on a real bike. I used to run around here as well because I used to live here, and this is an absolute bastard of a hill. Still at 18 kilometers an hour, which is significantly faster than I'd be riding up this hill without any assistance. When I'm working relatively hard, I'm not working that hard, as you can probably tell by my breathing. Nearly at the top. So many bikes with torque sensors fail on hills like this because they have a carbon belt drive and they only have one gear. This solves the major weakness of torque sensors. Now we're at the top. That is genuinely remarkable. Look, I'm slightly out of breath, but that is one of the steepest hills in London. If that's your commute every day, that begins to become very unfun very quickly. With this, no drama. No drama! Just fly straight up and be slightly, very slightly out of breath. So where do we finish with this video? I had an amazing time riding this around for the last 3 weeks and today. For me, this is a bike that is well worth your attention. It's in the same league as the Cowboy S5. It's in the same league as the 10ways Seago series. It's in the same league as my beloved Eilis E28. For full transparency, I do not get to keep this bike when we get sent it for review. I have to send it back, but I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and I'm going to buy one of these because that's how much I've enjoyed riding it. I think it is a genuine competitor to the Vanmoof S5, but it's over €1,000 left and you don't have to wait 3 months to actually get it. You can get one right now. That extra €1,000 in my mind is going to paying the extraordinarily good marketing team at Vanmoof, but you don't need to do that. You can get a very similar bike that looks brilliant for a fraction of the price. We saw this last year with the 10ways Seago 600. My colleague Eilis reviewed it. No one had really heard of that bike then. It got hundreds of thousands of views on our YouTube channel, and then it sold out in the UK because people wanted the 10ways. They knew they could get it immediately. It was a great competitor to brands like Vanmoof and Cowboy. You can't get it anywhere in the UK now because they sold so many units. I think this will happen with this bike. As soon as people cotton onto this, it will be gone because of supply chain issues. So I would recommend don't sign up to some pre-order waiting list where you don't really know how long you're going to have to wait. Just grab yourself one of these if you're a commuter. It's hard to find a better option than this. The other option I would say in the UK right now is the Eilis E28, which you can get immediately and is an excellent bike. I don't know yet if this will be on the Electroheads marketplace because frankly, we do a 30 to 60 day testing period of all products that come in before we add it to the marketplace. And we've only had this for 3 weeks. But unless it breaks down tomorrow, I can tell you that it will very, very likely go on there. Either way, you can go down into the description of this video. Whether you're in the UK, the EU, or the US, you can find a link to find out more information and get the best price on this bike. I'm going to try and make sure I arrange some kind of discount code or bundle or something along those lines for you if you are watching this video. All that's left to say is thanks so much for watching. If you've watched all the way until this point, then that makes me feel good that I'm not doing a terrible job of presenting these videos. If you're watching all the way until now and you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Just hit that little subscribe button, make me happy, make all my friends happy, make my colleagues at Electroheads happy, make yourself happy. Just a little tap right there. Go on. See you later, Electroheads.